right, so I want to start with going over these symbols and what it means in the context of graphing an inequality in an XY coordinate plane. So the first inequality that we see over here is the less than symbol. And what that means is everything on the boundary line is less than that. Now our boundary line is either solid or dashed. And in this case, because everything is less than it and does not include it, it is going to be a dashed line. So something like this, okay? Besides it being a dashed line, when we do graph an inequality that is less than, all of the solutions are below the line. So we are going to shade below the boundary line. Okay. In this next one, it is a less than or equal to. So in this case, our boundary line is going to be a solid line, okay? A solid line that is just a straight line like that, okay? And we are going to shade still below the boundary line, because it is still less than, but it's just, the difference is it's also equal to. So a solution could be on the line. Next, we have a greater than symbol. And the greater than symbol is a dashed line. So that would look like this. Now, because all of our solutions are greater than, we are going to shade above the boundary line. Okay. And lastly, we have a greater than or equal to. And in this particular case, we are going to have a solid line. Okay, so a line that looks like this. And that, all of our solutions are going to be above the line, greater than the line. So we are going to shade above the boundary line. Okay, so if you want to screenshot this and save it, be my guest. But this is explaining all of the symbols. So I'm going to go over, not there. I'm going to go over here to example 2, because I've already done example 1 with you guys. And I'm going to graph the inequality in the coordinate plane. So the first step is make sure that the inequality is solved for y, which this is. That means we just want to get y to one side. So if it was given to us in standard form or point slope form or any other form besides slope intercept form, we would have to change it. So now that we know that y is less than or equal to 2x minus 4, we're going to think about this for a moment as a line. We're going to graph, or really we're going to outline this line because it's the boundary line. So it's going to just be outlined. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of work to the right side of the screen. Now, important things to know are the slope of a line and the y-intercept of a line. We start by graphing the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is this constant number not attached to the x. So our y-intercept is a -4. Then after we graph the -4, we're going to use the slope to help us to move from one point to another. The slope is always attached to the x. So our slope here is a +2. But because we are using a graph, we're going to do it in a fraction form, and we could put any number over 1. So now we have our rise and our run. So I'm going to graph it. I'm going to start with my y-intercept at -4. So I'm going to plot a -4. And then I'm going to use my slope to get to a second point and a third point and a fourth point if possible, because I want to outline the boundary. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1, so right over there. So up 2 over 1, and I plot a point. And again, I'm going to follow this pattern, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1. And so you'll see that I have a nice outline of my line. And even if I wanted to go to the left of my y-intercept, well, now I'm going to rise -2, so I'm going to go down 2. But because I went down in the negative direction, I have to go in the negative direction for the x's as well, because a negative and a negative get me a positive slope. So down 2, left 1. So I have a series of points. Now I'm worried about the inequality symbol. So as you can see, my inequality symbol that was used is less than or equal to. So because it is less than or equal to, we are going to use a solid line. So I go onto my graph and I use a solid line to connect all of the dots. I would put my straight edge down, so my ruler, and I would just follow it along the lines, putting those arrows on the end to indicate that it does continue. So from here, step 3, we are also again focusing on this inequality symbol. But now that we have the line, we have to decide which way we are shading. So because it is a less than or equal to, we are going to shade below the boundary line. So we are going to shade below the boundary line. If you're not sure what is above and what is below, I suggest putting your pencil along the line and moving it till you get to the bottom of the page. So below would be down here. So anything down here is below. Therefore, I am going to put rays that just extend below this line. So now I have the inequality properly graphed. Y is less than or equal to 2x minus 4. I'm going to choose a few dots, or a few points. So I'm going to choose a point here, 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 and let's choose one right over here. Now, some of these are in the solution and some of these are not a solution. The ones that are in the shaded region are 100% a solution. So this point right over here is 100% a solution to this inequality. Okay, that point is 6, -4. So that is for sure one of our solutions. Now, because this is a solid line, any point on this line would also be considered a solution. So the point 2, 0, which is right over here, is in fact a solution because it is on a solid line. So another solution is 2, 0. Now there are plenty other solutions, but those are just 2 that I chose that are solutions. Now, the 2 that I chose that are not solution, well, the origin in this case, 0, 0, is not on the line, is not in the shaded area. So 0, 0 is not a solution to this inequality. And the other one I chose, -3, 3, that is also not in the shaded region and not on the solid line. So that is also not a solution. All right, I'm going to actually go back a little bit because maybe some of you guys did not see or want to see it again. Example number 2. Example number 1. So in this particular one, we had y is greater than 3x minus 4. So again, my side work, my slope is 3, or 3 over 1. And my y-intercept is -4. So I'm going to start by plotting a -4 on the y-axis. I'm going to then use my slope of 3 over 1 to rise 3 and run 1 to get a second point. Now remember, I'm only outlining this. I'm just going to outline it. So now that I have my outline, and the outline again is of this, it's our boundary line. Now I'm going to take into consideration the inequality symbol, which is greater than. Okay, so because it is greater than, I am going to use a dashed line. If it was and equal to, I would use a solid line. But because it is just greater than, I am going to use a dashed line. So, oops, I don't want that. So I have my dashed line with my arrows indicating that it continues. Okay. Now for the shading, step 3. Since it is greater than, I'm going to shade above the boundary line. So again, if you're not sure where above is, put your pencil onto the line and move it to the top of your page. Whichever direction that was is where you're going to shade. So I'm going to shade up this way. All right, so any point in the shaded area is for sure a solution. So here's a solution, and here's a solution. Now, the points on the line, so this point right here, which is 1, -1, that is on the line, but because it is dashed, it is not a solution. And 4, -4